So over the course of my career as an HR professional, I've had to have a lot of difficult conversations. And I've also had to coach leaders on how to have difficult conversations themselves. And there's lots of tools and frameworks out there, but one that I come back to consistently is a simple and easy to understand framework that I've put together myself based on my experiences as an HR professional. And the framework is called the RARE framework, and it stands for Reflect, Assemble, Rehearse, and Execute. And that's what I'll be taking you through in this video. So I think that there are really four main types of difficult conversations. There's conversations regarding behaviors, poor performance, terminations, and redundancies. Terminations and redundancies, they often have a legislative component to them. And I know that a lot of you who are watching these videos, you're not from Australia. And my experience is predominantly with Australian legislation, so I'm not going to be covering terminations and redundancies. And if you are having one of those types of conversations, I'd highly recommend that you have a script anyway. However, the RARE framework that I'll be taking you through, you can use that to handle conversations regarding poor performance and poor behaviors, regardless of what country you were in. So speaking of different countries, it's been really great to hear from people from all over the world. So I've really enjoyed hearing from people from Russia and Brazil and India and Jamaica and the Netherlands. So if we haven't already connected on LinkedIn or Twitter, please add me. It's been really great to get feedback from you all and to have some questions and comments. So if you do have any content that you're interested in seeing, please let me know either in the comment section, or you can send me an email, or you can contact me on Twitter or LinkedIn. For those of you who are new here, my name is David Milan and I'm an HR professional working in Australia. And on this channel, I like to share things that I'm learning that will help you to get better at your career. Rightly or wrongly, our quality of life, it can be impacted by our jobs and our careers. And so I like to share ideas and things that you can learn that will make your careers better, but not at the expense of your personal life. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and check out my other content. So the first part of the RARE framework is the reflect stage. You've thought to yourself, I need to have a conversation with this person and it's going to be difficult. I'm gonna have to talk to them about their performance or about their behaviors. And the reflect stage is really where you put the hot torch on yourself. You really sit down and reflect on what is going on. And it's important to ask yourself these questions. So ask yourself, is there anything that I'm doing that is contributing to this poor performance? Is there anything that I'm doing that's contributing to these poor behaviors? So you're really examining yourself to see if there's anything that you're doing that is negatively impacting the person. The final thing that I think that you should think about, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, is am I bringing any bias into this situation? So lately I've been teaching a lot of courses on unconscious bias. And the more that I teach these courses, the more that I see it in everything that I do, and the more that I see it in things that other people are doing as well. There are a few key biases that you want to be aware of when you're having a conversation regarding performance and behaviors, and those are confirmation bias, halo bias, and recency bias. So I recommend that you have a look at those online and really reflect on whether you're bringing any of those biases into the conversation. If you've gone through that stage and you still think that there's a need to have a conversation, it's time to move to the assemble stage of the framework. And that is really the most important part of the RARE framework. So the assemble stage of the framework is where you prepare how you want to have the conversation. I generally don't use a script myself because that can lead to a tendency to try and hit every single word as you have written it, and you also don't know what the other person is going to say. If a script is helpful for you, that's fine, but I generally don't do that. I generally like to come up with some dot points of what I want to say in the conversation. So the assemble stage has 5 key points: clarify, explain, specifics, impact, and engage, or CC for short. And I remember it because I think of the show New Girl and the character on there called Cece.
Was it Cece? Cecilia? Cecilia?
So if you haven't watched New Girl, recommend that you check it out. Probably won't help you with your career, but it is hilarious. So the 5 key points, CC, they help you to have a way to structure the conversation. And if you're doing it right, you should be able to land those points in a pretty succinct and quick fashion. A lot of the times when people are having a difficult conversation, they draw things out, and that can make things worse. You really want to get to the heart of the issue quite quickly. So what I'll do now is I'll show you an example. Hey John, thanks for taking the time to meet with me. I wanted to have a discussion with you and provide you with some feedback on some of your behaviors that I observed recently. So what I'm doing here, this is the clarify component of the CC points. I'm really showing the employee what the conversation is going to be about. I'm making it really clear up front that I'm going to be providing them with some feedback on their behaviors. A big part of my role as your HR business partner is to provide you with awareness of how you might be being perceived in the workplace by your employees and by your leaders. So here I'm really explaining what I am going to do, and I'm really drawing upon the fact that this is just part of my role. Sometimes a good way to remove the emotion from the situation is to point out that part of your role as an HR business partner or part of your role as a leader is to provide feedback. And in some cases, I'll even say, I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't provide you this feedback, and it also wouldn't be fair on you. So you're highlighting to them that it's just part of your job to provide feedback, and you're really trying to help them. During yesterday's leadership team meeting, we had some of our graduates come and present their final year projects to us. And during the meeting, you appeared to be really distracted. You were on your phone for a lot of it. At one point you were sending emails, and you came in and out of the meeting about 3 times during the presentations. And towards the end of the session, you were looking out the window for a pretty long period of time. It would have been about 30 seconds, if not a minute. So what I've done just there is I'm really explaining to the leader the specific things that I've observed. So I'm going into a lot of detail. I'm talking about you were in and out of the meeting room about 3 times, you were on your phone, you were checking emails, you were looking out the window. I'm really highlighting the time. And when you're providing feedback, it's really important to provide specifics. So that's what I'm doing in that part of the conversation there. And some of the graduates, they were noticeably put off by this, and they were already pretty nervous. As the most senior leader in the room, you really set the standard for a lot of other people. So what I'm doing there is I'm highlighting to the leader, John, the impact that his behaviors have on other people. So I'm really showing him that as the most senior leader, his actions have meaning and they have a big impact. So I wanted to provide you with this feedback and then have a discussion about it. So I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. So that's the final component there. That's where I'm engaging and I'm really opening it up to ask him what his point of view is and have a conversation about it. And I'm really trying to do it in a way that shows him that I care about him and his performance, and I want to have a discussion with him and get his point of view. So that's the assemble stage. As I mentioned earlier, I don't use a script. I prefer to use dot points. So what I'll do is I will write out the 5 CC dot points, and then I'll make some notes under each of those. And then when I'm having the conversation, if I haven't been able to memorize everything, I'll have my notebook handy and I'll just refer to it as I'm having the conversation. So that brings me to the rehearse part of the framework. And this is a pretty key step, but it's something that a lot of people skip over. And the rehearse part is exactly what it sounds like. You work through the assemble part of the framework and you practice having the conversation. Ideally, you want to find someone that you can practice having the conversation with as opposed to just practicing with yourself. So if you have an HR professional in your organization, I highly recommend that you ask to meet with them and have a conversation and practice how you want to manage the conversation. A lot of the time, it will help you to fine-tune the words that you want to say, and it will really highlight to you parts of the conversation that you might be nervous about. If you don't have access to an HR professional, I recommend that you find another senior leader in the organization and practice with them. If you're thinking, Dave, this is really confidential, I don't want to talk to anyone in my organization about it, I recommend that you find a confidential coach external to your organization and work with them and try and practice how to have the conversation with them. So that is the rehearse component. Find someone to practice the conversation with. So the final stage is the execute stage, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You take your plan and you put it into action. However, this is where a lot of people trip up. I find that a lot of leaders, they let a minor performance issue or a minor behavioral issue become a big one because they don't execute their plan. They hope that things get better. They ignore things. So I recommend that once you are at that execute stage, you do it quickly. If you finish your preparation in the morning, try and have the conversation in the afternoon. Try and do it as quickly as possible. The longer you leave it, the more it has the potential to become something bigger. So I don't think that difficult conversations ever get any easier, but like most things in life, you can get better at them with practice. And I found that the RARE framework is something that helps me to remove some of the uncertainty and emotions that come with having difficult conversations. HR, it can be a bit of a difficult and unusual career. So if you are just starting your career in HR, or you know someone who's about to start their career in HR, or you're an experienced HR professional and you want to share with your family what it is you do for a job, I've put together a custom playlist called Entry Level HR, which you might find useful. If you have enjoyed this video and you found the RARE framework valuable, I'd love to hear from you. I really hope that you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.